Good afternoon, call to order. Thank you. Call to order, regular meeting of the Tiki Island City Council on Tuesday, February 20th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the Public Safety Building. Roll call, Telchik here. Neblett here. Cunningham here. Kaufman here. Scott here. Walker here. Would y'all please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Citizen comments, limited to 2 minutes, must have filled out signage sheet. Thank y'all. Consent agenda. All items marked with a single asterisk on the consent agenda are considered routine by the City Council and be acted upon in one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless the council member requests it. A, approval of the minutes of January 16, 2024 regular meeting and February 1st, 2024 special meeting workshop. B, Secretary Treasurer's report, payment of bills for November and December 2023 and January 2024. Investment Officer's report for January 2024. Can I get a motion to approve or? Motion to approve. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mayor and Alderman's reports. Reports are limited to the items of community interest as defined by Texas Local Government Code Section 551.0415. No action will be taken. Mayor's report. Okay, on the mayor's report, everybody can see, of course, Gary likes to get the update on the marina down there.
I do, but only thank you.
So-
Can you provide one?
So they're actually driving piles. They have the sheet piles down there and you can see them on the barge. So they're working and hopefully we'll get one that stands up this time, which is their business, not ours. And they have had a new engineer's report on it. So we'll get that done and they'll proceed on with theirs. Okay, Alderman's report. Neblett?
Yes, just briefly, the Coral Way overlay took place today. Saw some pictures, haven't had a chance to inspect it because it's still wet. They'll pull that barricade tomorrow and we can take a look at it. And we are studying some work to repair the concrete over here on Windward Way. We have one bid from a trusted contractor. It's a pretty big number, and solicited a second bid from another contractor that did not bid the project, and now we are reaching out to some other contractors to just see if we're in the right ballpark for what the job's going to cost before we bring it to the board. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Kaufman?
No report.
Cunningham?
No report.
Scott?
Okay, I was gonna, tonight we have a couple of items to talk about the final payment for Apollo and Breakwater for Shirley and Sons, whatever. I was just gonna provide a brief update on the situation of the COO, Certificates of Obligation. Our 2016 obligation will be paid off in September of 16. And that was $1,990,000 principal. That was the road, right?
That's the road.
And $209,000 interest, so that's about $2.2 million. And it's just what is it, paid quarterly or
Annually.
Annually. Anyway, we pay interest and principal, and then anyway, it'll be paid off in September 26, just so everybody knows. I mean September of 16. Sorry. And COO, what did I do?
26, you said it right.
26, 26, okay, sorry.
Okay, you said 26.
26 is right.
Going back in time.
Yeah, no, 26, 2 years from now. And the COO 2022, which was the dredging, breakwater and all that, that was an $8 million principal and about, 1.36. The interest is not, this was on the original offer for COO, so the interest is slightly different, but ballpark, it ends up being with about $1.4 million worth of interest, about $9.4 million total principal plus interest. That will be paid off in 2032. And so the final cost of all of the dredging breakwater project, including everything, all the Atkins, all the engineering and everything is figured out, the way I figured it is $7,366,036. So you can tell from that, that there's a balance in that project of $633,964. That's money we did not spend. But,
We'll talk about the rest of it.
yeah, well, so then, but I wanted to make a comment, and Ray, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the $8 million that was so-called borrowed in a bond sale, the village has to use that only for what it was specified, dredging and breakwater. So we can't take that $634,000 and use it for anything else. So the plan would be to give that money back in lower interest, lower tax rates over a 3 or 4 or 5 year period, whatever. So it's kind of interesting that you use it or lose it. You borrow it and pay it back. Yeah. So, and then the other thing I was going to show is, I don't know if anybody saw this report, Fox 26 News.
Oh, man.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
I think January 27th. Did everybody see this, Fox 26? It is a report that out of 115 cities in the Houston metropolitan area, Tiki was the second highest average home value in all of the Houston metropolitan area.
You don't put that out for the tax rules to get that.
That was based on square footage, wasn't it?
It's already there.
Yeah.
It was based on square foot,
Right.
per square footage, wasn't it?
No,
Yes.
no,
Total?
Yeah.
No, it's
I thought it was per square foot.
It's per square footage.
No, it was on social media too, yeah.
It's $725,000 average home value, and then the next one to it, the number one was Bel Air, which was $1 million ballpark. But then amazingly, below 725, it drops back, way back to, I don't know, something like 400 and something thousand. So there's this big step between 3 and 2. So I found that kind of interesting. It's a 50% increase, according to this. 50% increase in home values in 5 years on Tiki.
That's because y'all done such a good job with the infrastructure.
Good building inspector.
That's right. Anyway, that's all I got.
Okay, Walker?
Just a couple of things. So the new benches are in at the Diamond Head Reserve. I've gotten feedback from quite a few people on them. So the old wooden about to fall over are gone, and nice new Hollywood benches are there. So I've already seen people use them. It'd be nice to have 3 more at the front reserve. There's basically only 1 bench there right now. It's one of those little ones. So we could find a way to put benches at the
Three
front
more.
pond as well. Yeah, so people can use those. It's not on this, so the other 2 items are on the agenda. They're agenda items, so I won't go over those. One with the elevator, the water fountains. And then looking into wanting to put a concrete walking track around one of the ponds for the residents, especially after watching women with baby strollers going down Tiki Drive with construction workers, no offense guys, going by at like above the speed limit. So we got some initial estimates. It's not currently in the budget, so we have to go find money to do this. But I think it would be a nice amenity for the residents to have a walking path that you could actually go to with strollers or with, kids with their little drivable Jeeps, or just people like me that could go and walk the parks during the day, or the reserves, one of the reserves. So just want to bring that up. That'll be an agenda item down the road because I'll be looking for money. So, and that's it.
Okay, thank
Goldie,
you.
can I ask her a question?
Yeah,
Can't?
no.
Lawyer says no. Okay.
Not on the agenda.
I don't.
I'll ask her after the
There
meeting.
you go.
There you go. Watch that other one too. Reports and presentation, fire department. We don't have a report
Is
from
it
the fire
in, it's in
department.
here, I can go over it, Goldie. I think
It's in the packet.
Let me
Okay,
get to it.
police report.
We have 54 calls for service, 4 alarms, 25 assists, 2 citizen assists, 9 fire and EMS calls, 1 fireworks, 1 general information, 3 loud music, 1 open door, 1 silent 911, 2 stranded motorists, 2 suspicious circumstance, 1 suspicious person, 2 suspicious vehicles, and total of 18 traffic stops and citations, and 22 warnings.
Thank you.
You want me to do the fire?
Yes, you can.
Okay. For the month, there were 9 EMS calls, 5 were medical, 4 were motor vehicle accidents. There were 3 small fires, One of the biggest one was a minor fire. It was an appliance fire. The owners were gone and their fire alarm went off. It just filled the house up with smoke. There was 12 other just minor calls for a total of 14 calls for the month. All the apparatus are in service, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Building inspector's report.
Currently 11 new homes under construction, 1 CO was issued, 1 new house plan submitted for review, 49 permits issued, 50 closed. Replats, 2 recorded, 1 for review. Marina bulkhead materials delivered, work commences in February. Non-compliance ordinance issues, 3 red tag notices issued, 1 bulkhead notice, 12 site reviews, 2 by complaint. Efforts continue for ordinance violations for substandard non-compliant conditions. Ordinance reviews continue. Completed my CE hours for the certified floodplain license, and I have it renewed. Also CE hours renewed for my inspector's license, and that's been completed. Business as usual.
Thank you. Ordinance Review Committee report.
Okay, we're back again with 6.1, section 6.1 in the bill line, so let's trying to get that squared away. So myself and Freddie and Daryl and Ray was a big help on trying to keep this all straightened out. So the main things that we've done in there is we deleted and removed the definition for above ground improvement. We've added a definition for a swimming pool, which we didn't have in the ordinances. Under 682, you had 4 things in there that you could have in the bill line. That was walkways, covered porches, steps, and the eaves of the overhanging roof. So we added swimming pools and propane tanks to that. And the other change in there, we just, on the side bill line, we just referenced back to section 639C, which I think is the drainage easement ordinance. And then section 6149, that's the propane tank LPG ordinance. And what we did, we just, under tank location, we just added language into that ordinance. So that's all we got on that. So, and that's on the agenda for approval tonight.
All right, thank you. Emergency management report.
Today, webinar on the January 31st Homeland Security grants. February 5th and 9th, we're at the College Station, did the introduction to information incident management, basically a PIO course, wildland fire kind of gear, so a lot of nomenclature from that. So it's all part of the incident management team for the region. Met a lot of good people there, a lot of faces and names all put together. 14th of February, to the Region 2 Incident Management Team meeting. They're going to be restructuring. They're going from 6 regions, just like TM did last year. They grew to 8 regions, just for span of control, better coverage. The INTs are doing the same, getting to 8 regions with 3 specific color zones to handle those regions. So one of the training that's coming up for that, and just my reapplication to that specific INT is also good. Then last, I've got class next week going over the public assistance program, more in depth than the class that I went to last year. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Animal control report is in the packet. General business and action items. A, discuss and take action to approve the 2024 Galveston County Mosquito Control District Aerial Spraying Resolution. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. B, discuss and take action on replat request for lots 97 and 98, section 12, known as 131 Quayside, owner Tim Baum. Get a motion to discuss?
Motion to discuss.
Okay. Daryl?
Is Mr. Baum here?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I mean, everything's in order, it's just, he's adding a lot into his existing property. That's his problem.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. C, discuss and take possible action to amend Chapter 6 Building and Construction, Article 1, Section 6-1 Definitions, Chapter 6, Article 2, Division 3, Section 6-82 Front Build Line and Side Build Lines, and Chapter 6, Article 3, Division 2, Section 6-139 Petroleum Gas Storage Container. Motion to discuss, please.
Motion to discuss.
Alan?
Okay, I've done a lot of study on this, and what I'm gonna recommend a kind of a multi-pronged approach. I'm gonna suggest that we hold off on this 1 second, but I'm gonna suggest that, through a motion, I will make a motion, but that the Village of Tiki Island consider adopting the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code. It's kind of like the electrical code, plumbing code, whatever. It's a big official ICC code thing. Sorry, Daryl, I kept thinking I'd run into you, but I didn't. But I know this is news to you, but I'm sorry. But I think it's a good way to go, because I'll say that currently we do not have any swimming pool ordinance in the village. So Daryl's been kind of going by electrical code, plumbing code, and various other
And
things.
that's really all I inspect.
Yeah, so they do many things, but one of the things that the International Swimming Pool, it's hard to say, and Spa Code will do is it will set standards for the village. And so it also will it'll keep unscrupulous, not saying there are any, but contractors come here, one of the first questions you can ask them is, are you gonna build this pool per the code, the swimming pool code? And if they say, what, then you might want to find another contractor. But, so it's my suggestion that the village adopt this code, and it'll have some amendments. Like, we always adopt codes, and then we modify chapter 1, section 3, and whatever. And somebody, a couple of people will have to go through the code line by line and say, does this apply to Tiki or not? And do we want to do this, and so forth. One of the things I would point out is that not having a swimming pool code, I think that someone could have put in one of these little metal skirts that you drop a vinyl liner in, and you've got like a bolt-on deck that goes on it. Somebody probably could have petitioned us to put one of those in, because we don't have any other code for swimming pools. We don't have any code that says you can or can't do this and that. And that's called an on-ground pool. And that's one of the reasons about the definition of the swimming pool. That's one of the reasons I kind of brought this up, was that the International Swimming Pool, obviously, code and spa code has 50 or 60 definitions in there. It goes to great length defining what an in-ground residential swimming pool is, and what a commercial pool is, and what an on-ground pool is. And probably one of the first things we would do is say, no on-ground pools allowed, and take care of that section of the code. But anyway, it brings in applicable parts of electrical code, plumbing code, mechanical code, you name it, it brings them in by reference. So I looked over it, it's a pretty all-encompassing code. And so my thought was we get that situated first, which might take a month or two, before we define where we can put a pool on the lots. Get that going first and get it all set up to define what a swimming pool is per code. And then decide whether we want to have swimming pools in front, back, side, or wherever. It's kind of like getting the cart before the horse if we just say you can put a pool in front of the house, but we don't know what a pool is. We don't have any code for it. And then, so I'll give you a brief example.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Can you like kind of bullet point, what are the main provisions in there that it enforces?
I'm just getting ready to do that.
Good.
So the swimming pool code, I'm reading this right out of the code. It says it establishes minimum requirements for the design, construction, alteration, repair, and maintenance of swimming pools, spas, hot tubs, and aquatic facilities. So the key there being design, construction, alteration, repair, and maintenance. There's even maintenance in there that says you can't have a slimy green pool. We could go to the owner of a pool that's slimy and green and say, you're violating the code that Tiki adopts. And some of the reasons for that is if you got a really nasty pool, a kid could fall in there in the muck and nobody would know it, you know. But so a couple of examples are, the code requires fencing around the pool both during and after construction. And I think that's pretty important. Right now, we have swimming pools being built with no fencing around them. No fencing. So kids, they've been full of water and kids could go over there and play at night if they wanted to and fall in. But the other thing is, just an example is, so for pools deeper than 5 feet, you have to have a means of egress on the deep end, so to speak, even if it's 6 feet. Everybody usually has steps on the shallow end or a beach or whatever they call that. But on the deep end of a pool, deeper than 5 feet, you have to have at least a ladder to get out. And that's just another thing that's in the code that a lot of pools don't have, I think, around here. Standardized step dimensions. So you step in, it's just like on walk decks and walkways. Each step has to be no less than 10 inches deep and 12 inches high, so that when you walk into the pool, it's a uniform step down. You don't step 14 inches and 18 inches and 24 inches because people can fall in. And then just one other example is any pool that's 30 feet wide or wider requires a means of egress on both sides of the pool, not just one. So those are all very common sense things that I just was glad to glancing through there and saw those. And it's the kind of stuff that Daryl doesn't even have to tell people, because if the contractor comes in and agrees to build a pool per code.
But it has to be stamped by an approved architect or something, because that's why I would be against it. I'm not gonna design pools or look for, I'll have to learn how to design pools, what all the rules are. It's not like.
The pool contractor would be responsible.
Yeah, we would
It
have.
wouldn't be nothing you do, it'd be the pool
Right.
contractor that'd have to be responsible for all the codes. You would just inspect the codes, but they would have to bring everything to you.
But then if you
And
inspect.
it doesn't have to be an architect, it'd be a pool contractor. They could do
But
it.
like I said, then I still have to know design, all the rules. So,
Well, but Daryl, if you think about it, that one of the other things is that if a pool has a diving board, I don't know, we could probably have some in Tiki with a diving board, right?
most of them are too small.
Yeah, not,
Yeah. But anyway, if you have a diving board, for example, the code tells them how deep it has to be for how far, and there's another aquatics association that also does pool code, but this is more for residential. But if you're gonna have a diving board, then the bottom of the pool 6 feet out has to be 8 feet deep or whatever it tells you.
That's why I would be in favor of a design professional stamping it, not me.
Oh, well, that's all, and I'm not positive that the code doesn't require that an engineer approve the pool. It's possible, I didn't find that in there, but,
Well,
but see, what I'm saying here is that the Village of Tiki Island, my motion would say to, if I can find it here.
yeah, if you adopt that code, though, we're responsible.
No, I'm talking, so my motion will say that the Village of Tiki Island will initiate the adoption of the code, which means the people
Review it first.
here
Yeah, we
agree.
review it first.
We'll agree, we want to initiate the adoption of it. If we get into it and decide we don't, then I'm just saying, I think it would be worthwhile heading down that road and see if that's something we want to do.
the fencing that's required for all center construction, can that be like the orange
They'd like to
fencing?
use,
It goes up, like I've seen some of the people building pools around there.
Construction fence.
Construction, that
I think they
orange
like to use the word
fence.
barrier. It's
Yeah.
an all-encompassing word. It's a barrier that I think it has to be 4 feet tall during construction.
Yeah, so you have to physically cross the end of the pool, and therefore
Yes.
they cross.
Yeah.
the end.
And see, I think that sometimes, I think about the fact that a pool, before it's filled with water, might be more dangerous than
Sure.
after.
But
Sure.
it's full of
Kids are-
steel
Yeah, if kids are running around at night, they go blasting through there and fall off into a pool with rebar, or maybe they just hit their head on the bottom.
Well, I'd be in favor, if we did a pool ordinance, that would be one of the requirements, then I can enforce that. Something like that.
Bridget, do we have some liability exposure if we don't have a pool ordinance and somebody gets injured, hurt?
So I was actually, because you brought this up, I wondered if we needed public notice before we could even attempt to adopt the International Swimming Pool Code. And as of 2021, the legislature basically said, all municipalities have the May 1st, 2019 International Swimming Pool and Spa Code adopted. They have done that.
So
for
by
us.
default,
We have the 2019, so if we want to adopt a later version or make amendments to that version, that's what we need to notice and do at a later time. But as far as liability, if we don't have a swimming pool ordinance, I mean, I've not seen a city get sued for a swimming pool accident on a private
Okay.
residential
Yeah,
property.
Generally in favor of letting
And I've done a
property
lot of
owners
those, unfortunately.
do what they want to do on their property.
Yeah.
But I do see the value in having a code, for sure.
Then if that's the case, then it would be worthwhile to go, maybe to go to 6-134, whatever it is, under code.
And add that, yeah.
yeah, so
It is so adopted.
So
That's
So
why-
I understand, when
Yeah.
that was passed, every municipality in Texas basically now has that
Mhm.
as an ordinance.
Unless we have adopted a later version or made amendments to it.
Okay.
So we are to follow that in lack of
Correct.
any other ordinance.
Correct, that is our default.
So we literally could just put language in that we're following whatever
Mhm.
number it is.
Or the newest one.
Well, I mean, we might, if we're gonna
Yeah.
adopt, I guess we don't have to.
We've already adopted it.
We
from
can
what you're
adopt
telling
the
us.
2021.
All of it is, I
Version.
know Alan was saying, probably want to do some amendments to
Yeah,
it.
that was my point, is if we, under the 19, shouldn't we spend some time looking at amendments to
Yeah, that's what he's
19?
The difference is between the 19 and 21.
That's right,
Yeah.
because currently we're held accountable for the 19. If we want to amend it, we might want to amend it quicker.
Or we would,
To the
we would act
21.
just the opposite, we would wanna amend the 21 version.
But you're not under the 21, you're under the
We
19
would
right now.
adopt the 21 and
You can
then,
do that.
and then make amendments to that, because if you make amendments to 19 and they're different from 21, then you're
Right.
backing up.
I think everything you said is good, except for if we have people with pending pools between now and then, I hate to put somebody off that's in the process, because we've been approving pools for a while, so I think I heard you say at the beginning, your suggestion would be to set that aside for now, or did I mishear you?
What she just said is bad news for anybody that's got a pool being built right now, because it should be being built to the 2019 code.
All the pools in the rearview mirror as well, if we've had that.
Well, we can't go back.
Well, you can't go
well,
back.
I don't know about going back to 2019.
Nor can
whenever that-
nor can you really stop one now, so
I
we're
wouldn't
really
think
looking
they've
at
already
future
started.
pools. Right.
But a case could be made about, you could cherry pick out of there, like right now, you could say, all right, we got pools being, at least one pool being built with no fence around it whatsoever. We could go make them fence it tomorrow, based on that. But, so that's just, I was under the impression, based on looking at our ordinance, that's kind of weird that the state does those things for us. I mean, it's
It's a separate topic, we need to see how we get notified of that and how we incorporate those.
I see, I remember, I asked about
Agreed.
6 months ago about all the laws that were passed in the 23 section. And I don't know, has anybody put that together yet?
I haven't. I usually go to those, but
So-
afterwards.
So there were no ordinance we needed to change based on the 23 legislation?
Y'all did, you did a couple of them, like you revoked your curfew
Curfew.
ordinance.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of those things, if they come up, we just can't enforce our ordinances. It's not a liability or anything to have our code saying one thing. Good to update it, but
Mhm.
we're
So,
not.
of course, so any pool that's under construction right now that does not have a barrier up or is completed and hasn't been fenced yet, essentially is in violation of this 2019.
If
Code.
if
it's in-
it's in the code, I don't know what's in it.
Yeah, but
I'm not
actually, that code is not even protected. You can Google it and go right to it and
Yes.
see all the chapters. Even the 21, I'm surprised. Usually they make you pay for them. So anyway, so to answer your question, where were we going with that? My suggestion was that we take a pause on the frequent changing of the ordinances, because the swimming pool ordinance, I know, the code, some places in there, it specifies how far away from the water the fence has to be. And so, we need to learn more, Daryl, sorry Daryl, you're gonna have to learn about it. But we need to learn more about what the code tells us how to build a pool before we start telling people they can build a pool on the side of the road. That's what I think.
Yeah, because then you get into a fence, right? And the fence is a good example. If you put the pool in the front yard and the driveway up to the build line, and then the ordinance says, or the code says, the fence has to be 6 feet from the pool, then that presents a separate set of issues. If then the fence by default ends up in the utility easement. So I would be in favor of tabling this, and I thank you for your research on that. I've also got some concerns with the LPG ordinance.
Well,
Okay, but
we
before we
table
do
the
this,
whole thing.
so, but for pools that are in progress, or pools that have already been approved and permitted, those will not stop.
Correct.
You can.
We don't have a code yet.
You
Yeah, we
can,
do.
you can go back to.
We don't know.
We haven't been enforcing it.
I don't know it. I don't know what, that's not my bailiwick, but
Yeah,
clearly, was that the?
No, we couldn't stop it. We've
Right.
already issued a permit. It's already under
No,
construction.
you can go, I read through that, between what he's talking about, the residential code and the Texas code, is that you have, I don't know, you're obligated, or you have the right to go back, everybody in this village, and make them comply. You gotta have self-closing hinges on the gate, self-locking latches on the gate, a minimum of 4 foot on, there's all kinds of stuff I don't think we're gonna get into.
Yeah, but this is, we just go, we already adopted 2019.
Yeah, you're already into it, but.
We're already into
I wouldn't
it.
change anything, but.
So, I don't know if I even need to make a
The
motion.
reason I want to clarify is because for citizens that are here, anybody that's, that comes back and hears about this, if you have a existing permit, you are good to go. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, we're gonna leave them to let them do that, and then anything from this point on.
But didn't somebody say, maybe it was you, Patty, that do we want to start enforcing on current construction sites to put up a temporary fence?
I personally would like that because that makes me very nervous when I drive around and I see these pools that are under construction and it's totally open.
Do we know
I
that
think
is in the
that's a safety
2019
hazard.
code?
That's where-
That's what I'm gonna.
So the action is to direct Bridget and Daryl to study up on the 2019 code and
it's the
table
code that
this
existed.
until we are better informed.
It's the code that existed May 1st, 2019, so it
Yeah.
may be a 2018 code.
It's 2018.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so 2018.
That's
And
the
yeah,
action.
if,
So, what I was gonna say, the motion I would make would be for us to adopt the 2021 code, regardless of what the state does, with amendments. And so it'd be like a little mini project to kind of run through the paragraphs and see, like right now, that I can't tell you, I'll bet you that the 2019 code or whatever includes on-ground pools. And it is a real entity, and they tell you how to build them and when to build them and where to build them and all that.
And they're allowed.
So if someone comes in tomorrow and wants to build an on-ground pool, which I define as those you buy at Walmart or wherever, they could do it the way I see because it's in the code.
So I have a question for Bridget. So, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. I would just say that we need to protect ourselves. I don't want to step on any toes, but if we don't want the pools with the metal skirt around.
So if we're already held accountable for 2019, to me, it feels like you need to know more about what's in 19 before you go to 21. That just feels like the right thing to do. I'm not saying don't adopt 21, we know the difference, but today we're held accountable for 19, right? Are we held accountable? We're not held accountable for 21, legislature hasn't given us that gift.
No, we are.
Until you adopt it.
And we
Right.
weren't accountable till September 1st, 2021.
Right.
For the 2018 code.
We ought to know what we're responsible for now, I would
Yeah.
think. It may be exactly the same as the next one, but there may be some big differences.
We're gonna have to look at both.
I think that would be part of the process, would be to go look at what 19's got in it compared to 21. And then I just was of the opinion, if you're gonna bother to do it, adopt the latest one. And
Codes, we tend to recommend staying back a little bit because they've been tried. And we want the ones that have been tried and true, not
That's a good point.
the
Yeah.
newest ones. That's just
Yeah.
not my decision, just a thought.
Yeah. So we need somebody to take on the project is looking at 19, see where we're at in compliance and comparing that to 20 if we want to consider 20.
You can probably find that online, a difference,
Okay.
probably pretty quickly.
Okay, so what are we doing here now?
I have a question before we go to a motion anyway. If we decide to defer this, can we talk about the gas propane tanks? I would like to, even if we decide to defer this, go ahead and approve that it's okay to put a propane tank past the build line as long as it's buried, so Darrell doesn't have to keep bringing those propane questions to this board, just propane.
Can't get it in the utility easement though.
Can't get in the utility, but
Well, let me
because
go
that's
to-
part of what we're
Mine was
reviewing.
a three-part deal, and I've done two. Let me do three, which is LP gas tanks. My grand scheme here. I will say that this is more related to some of the things that are in 6-149, which is our LP gas code. There's some dimensions and things in there to do and not do. I'm gonna suggest an alternative for that is that the village adopt, initiate considering adopting, the Railroad Commission of Texas. Let's see, what is it? I'll tell you what it is.
Railroad Commission, yeah.
Yeah, it's chapter 6, it's chapter 9 of, I knew I would lose that. Anyway, they've got statutory authority, there it is. Administrative Code, Title 16, Chapter 9, gave the Railroad Commission of Texas authority to deal with liquefied petroleum containers. And they've written the LP gas safety code, which you work with all the time. And then the safety code adopted by reference, NFPA 58, which is it's called the natural gas, liquefied petroleum gas code. And the NFPA is more on the fire department end of the business, but anyway, it's got hundreds of definitions of all kinds of stuff in there. So Railroad Commission of Texas was appointed by the Natural Resources Commission for some reason, maybe that's who they work for, by state law to take over the managing of LP gas tanks. And then they've written rules, but it's a combination of the NFPA and their rules together. And they've done things like all the things we talked about in our ordinance about 10 feet away from this and 8 feet away from that and 20 feet from this. And so we really don't need to be specifying those distances, because if we either adopt, and Bridget may have a better term, it's not really a code, it is a state agency that has written a safety. So we could call it, we could put it in as a reference into our 6-134, whatever it is, where we have all of our codes. Because right now it says in there something about must meet all requirements of Railroad Commission. And I think it would be better to be more specific and say the LP gas code written by the Railroad Commission, which includes by reference NFPA 58. And then, so that's, compartmentalize that, that's one option, is so that we don't run afoul of the Railroad Commission. Because if we say in our ordinance in error that tanks must be 10 feet from the house, and then the Railroad Commission next year changes it to 12 feet, we gotta go change ours to 12 feet to match them. And it's kind of like you're playing catch-up all the time. And I don't know if this is true, but it seems we might be liable if we have an ordinance that says you can put a propane tank within 10 feet of the house, but the Railroad Commission says 12 feet, and something happens and the house blows up or burns down, and it was built according to the Tiki Island, LP gas code, so to speak.
And the
So,
Railroad Commission code is, that also governs privately owned tanks on private residences. It's not
Mhm.
for government entities or businesses, or it's all encompassing.
yeah, it's built around like 10,000 gallons or less. It goes all the way up to like 50,000 gallons. So it regulates the big guys that do the filling of the tanks,
Yeah.
giant storage, medium storage, little storage, all the way down to residential. One thing it does not touch is any motor vehicle. They put that in there 15 times. But anyway, it's just a thought that I have, in that we would make all references to that, and then we wouldn't have to worry about whether we're competing or conflicting, is a better word, with the railroad commission.
Yeah, because I think we let the railroad commission enforce the state regulations, let us add our amendments, which is the anchoring requirements and location and those things, and let the railroad commission that's certified, or the LPG installing the tank, have this license and their certifications, let them enforce the railroad commission.
And the only thing we
I'm
got to
totally
be
in
careful
favor of
of,
that. We don't have the manpower for a lot of this stuff we don't want to
yeah,
add.
and I think we don't take the international electric code and create our own little mini version of it, you know, we just go with the electric.
Yeah, we took a lot of our amendments out of a lot of these ordinances to let the regulations regulate themselves, you know, we don't have to.
Oh, and I put, and everybody, I put this on, Brandy put this on your desk. Just kind of, this is an LPG gas installation checklist, and this would be something that Barrett could use. It's a lot of information, but it basically is asking you, where's the tank, what's the nearest electric transmission line, where's the nearest street and all that. So if you go through, either you could ask the I don't know if the installers fill this out.
Well, and I'd be in favor of registering who's allowed to put tanks in here, and we get copies of their licenses and
I
registration.
like that.
Oh, as a minimum, yeah.
You know, 'cause we really don't have that going either.
Yeah, but Bay Gas sends out an inspector before they install a tank and make sure that it meets the railroad.
Well, that's what I mean, we
Rules and
register
regulations.
them. They've been against registering for some
Well,
reason.
but I'm just saying, before they install a tank, Bay Gas or any of the gas companies come out and send somebody out to inspect it before they sell you a tank and bury a tank or supply you a tank.
And then I think we would end up with a mini or a little short ordinance that says something about the International Swimming Pool Code. That, and I think we have to do this to say that a permit is required by Village of Tiki Island to build a pool, because otherwise I'm not sure a permit would be required. And the
Most cities don't have an LPG permit.
well, and so the deal is that Railroad Commission has appointed themselves the authority having jurisdiction over LP gas tanks. It's a term that is used widely for who's the boss. Now, we locally could declare ourselves the authority having jurisdiction. What I would like to do, what I'd like to know is if we can write a little small paragraph that says, if you're gonna put in an LPG tank, you must do the Railroad Commission thing, and you must get a permit from Tiki Island. But I hope that doesn't make us the authority having jurisdiction, because for liability reasons and various other reasons, I don't know that we want to be the authority having jurisdiction over LPG.
All we really want to regulate is where you put it, and anchoring is required, because in most cities, they can just throw LPG tank anywhere they want, no permits, no anchoring, I mean, you know, so those are the two things that we really look at here, is the anchoring and the location.
Okay, is there any more discussion on this?
Do I need to even make a motion that we consider adopting this Railroad Commission thing or anything, or is that just kind of normal part of doing business?
We can just, yeah, that's
Or
more
bring
just
it-
direction.
Just bring
for
it
us
to a
do that.
meeting in the future.
I have another question. So when I look at what we have here on the LPG, the 6-149, on H, it says compliance with state railroad commission regulations and local building codes required. So what do you want to, since it said, all rules are imposed by the Texas Railroad Commission when installed in Village Tiki Island meet all applicable provisions of the village building codes, including not limited international codes. What do you want to add to this?
I want to take away our ordinance that we have that's more than 2 paragraphs long. We got in there, it says,
From what I heard you, from processing what you were saying, what you were talking, you said you basically want to say, this has to follow, basically Railroad Commission in Texas has jurisdiction for LPG tanks and we are following those regulations. Isn't that what this says?
sure, if you say so.
No, that's a question.
Well,
It's not
I'll
a
tell
fact.
you that,
Is that,
I'm
is that how
more
you read it?
inclined to say a little more specific, that must meet the Railroad Commission, LP gas safety code, you know, current version of that safety code or whatever. At
So-
least we direct people.
So why can't that language just be added? If we add that language to H, because you've already started down, it's already started down that path that says you have to comply with the Railroad Commission.
That's
And
fine.
It says in here, all rules, laws, and regulations imposed by the Texas Railroad Commission. So if we if you add the specifics, and I like where you're going with this, I think this is a really good idea. What I don't want to do is rewrite a whole thing. If it's in here and all we have to do is add some additional verbiage, then this can be where it is. And location of tank is already in here and anchoring is already in here.
And we have to have those things no matter what.
Well, I
So those would
take
stay.
exception
And it
to
says that a
that.
permit's required.
We're under paragraph E, it says tanks can be located anywhere on a residential lot.
With the following exceptions.
Well, I was gonna ask Bridget, if we have two ordinances and one's a general ordinance that says you can do this stuff, but then we have a more specific one that says LPG gas tanks, and we say something in there, is it more specific than the general ordinance? As far as
We
like
go
the look?
by what was latest in time. Like, you're talking about two separate ordinances, and if they come
No,
to.
that's not what he's talking about. He's
Well,
talking
no, I
about,
think
the Railroad
you
Commission
had it right.
imposes one thing. The Railroad Commission basically says, in their stuff, it says there's specific locations where you can't put tanks. But we then have something in our, and we say we're gonna follow that. But we also have a provision in here that says it can be anywhere on a residential lot. Who wins?
We've made it more narrow. As long as we're not preempted, we can always make it more strict.
Stringent.
Right.
So,
Make it
not a
all back.
professional
But
LPG tank.
If I read these words to you, it says tanks can be located anywhere on a residential lot.
With the following
With the following
exceptions.
Yeah, with the following
There's
exceptions.
exceptions right behind that.
I know, but that's.
Why would you only read half a sentence?
Because that's where I was looking. It still says anywhere on a lot, the exceptions aren't located. And I think it says in there something about being 10 feet away from
It does.
air conditioners and what have you.
Thanks.
That's the kind of
Ignition
stuff.
sources, yeah. It's really ignition source.
So you're saying, instead of saying anywhere, you're saying tanks can be located, and tell us where they can be located. You're just saying you don't like the beginning of the sentence. I follow you know.
So strike me anywhere. Tanks can be located on a residential lot, with the
So-
following exceptions.
We don't
still-
need to rewrite it right here, but we can say that, but we can also put it in 6-134, make a reference to the Texas Railroad Commission of Texas, put it there, and with amendments, and if we want to say something, we could adopt it with amendments, but if we did that, then we would get into the gas tank writing business. I'm just saying that if we don't want to put any dimensions in there, because if the road commission changes it, like I said, to 12 feet from 10 feet, then we're right back at this table making another ordinance change because the railroad commission, and I don't know how often they change their,
I like letting them be responsible for enforcing those rules, because they're licensed installers.
right, and I don't know, yeah.
I'm just, that's where I'm at.
That relieves you of a lot of headaches and responsibility, and I don't think we have to say anything about ignition sources or anything.
Now,
Just say-
I agree.
I've got no issue with adopting the Railroad Commission. thing.
It's information we pass
They do
on,
this
but
everywhere.
it's in their rules. It's not us enforcing it.
Yeah, but.
What I want to know is specifically, what do you want to do? And is it, what do you want to scrap? What do you want to keep?
Well, we're not gonna rewrite the ordinance here in this meeting, I'm just saying
I know, but I'm
that
trying to get clear, Alan, on what is it, what specifically?
we don't
is it
want any
you're proposing?
dimensions in there, we don't want to say so many feet from an air conditioner, so many feet from, it says that can't be closer than 10 feet to a roadway, it can't be closer than 10 feet to a parking area. Those are all over the place. These things are 50 or 60 pages long. And so, and I've gone and I've referenced them and I've looked into them, okay? And so there's hundreds and hundreds of things in there, and we have cherry picked and said, well, we don't do this and don't do this and don't do that, but there's 97 other things that are in there. So there's no reason for us to put little bitty cherry pick things in there that are actually in compliance with the Railroad Commission. Why do we duplicate that effort? So we just need to take out all the stuff, other than I say LPG tanks can be, according to the Railroad Commission of Texas, and that there's a permit required. See, that's where we definitely want to know that a tank's being put in. And I'm saying earlier, I don't think we want to become the authority having jurisdiction. But if we can just, as a city, if we can say, I want to make you get a permit for this sort of, it could be the same thing to me as a parade permit or whatever. It just, as a city, we're gonna say, we want to know that you're putting in a gas tank, so you come and get a permit from us. We're not going to tell you how to put it in or where to put it in, but you have to come to us so we know you're putting one in.
So basically, all you're saying is you just want to add that we have to get a permit. And we should just defer to the Texas regulation on propane tanks and keep our nose out of the rest of it, and there's where you'll follow it.
Yeah,
And then just have a permit so we know where it's at, and then we have inspections that we do every
That's
other
another
year.
thing we require, is
Yearly
we do routine inspections on
So
them.
those two things, and then don't do anything else and just adopt the code of the Texas code of the LPG tanks. And then keep everybody out of it, and then there's no ands
Under
or
state
buts. If
rules.
we're having to follow that code anyway, why are we breaking it?
And I just, are they requiring cathodic protection right now on underground
Do
tanks?
what?
We are.
Are they requiring cathodic protection? Are we requiring cathodic protection?
What is that?
Keeps them
Cameras.
from corroding.
Cameras,
Uh,
basically.
Because the state does require cathodic protection.
No,
on
for
tanks.
vehicles or?
No, for the tank.
For the tanks.
It's got an anode on it that.
Oh, yeah, but that's the, no,
That
we
would
don't.
be in the state
require-
code. You wouldn't have to do nothing but enforce.
Well, we
it.
don't, I don't inspect that. It's
Well, I want to
something-
know if the ones that are in the ground right now have an anode on them.
I know they do.
They do.
Yes.
Because
That's
this
the
past
state.
weekend, I'm looking at the deal, one firefighter was killed and 12 were critically injured when an underground propane tank leaked into the house. Did y'all see that? And it was like a bomb went off and almost killed these firefighters. They're in critical condition. It was an underground tank that was leaking, and the wind happened, I guess, to be blowing the right direction, and fill the house up with gas. Boom.
Okay, so why don't I make a motion?
Yeah, so I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the current one we have, so basically, adopt Texas Railroad Commission code, we already require a permit, right? This is already in here, in the 6149, permit's required.
We just have to say on our permit what we're specifically,
Right, and we
Required.
say, so things in here about foundation anchoring requirements for the above ground tanks. And then the pieces in here for anchor requirements for the buried tanks. And then everything else we got. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but we'll have to put it in writing.
Yeah, I'm
but
just trying to
we just need
understand
to-
before we go look at this, before we go look at the road commission code.
So what we need to do is get a motion to rewrite it, and then we can go from there and then bring it back again.
Before you make the motion, if we're gonna do that, can we make part of that motion that until time we make that decision, that any request to put something past the build line has to come to this body until we get to this decision? Because this may take 2 or 3 months, right, to look through that. So in the meantime, if somebody comes to Darrell and wants to put something past the build line, that Darrell does not approve that it comes here,
Yeah.
Yes,
for consistency purposes.
I'd be in favor of that.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, so
and that's where it's at now.
we'll make a motion,
Yeah, I
we'll
think
make a
so.
motion.
I just want to reconfirm though.
Okay, so,
You,
I'm looking at Bridget.
Is that already happening? Like, do we need it?
I feel like it is, but
I think we need to state it because in conversations with Darrell, I think at times we've changed so much and talked about so much that it may get confusing to him what comes here and what doesn't come here. So I'd
Well,
like to
just
clarify.
Yeah, just clarify to me that anything past the front build line, we're gonna review it, and that's, I can do that.
okay.
I
So
can
why
make
not-
that happen.
If you want a motion, it postpone
Um,
this item to
I got that one.
whatever,
Okay. Give me a
But
whenever
then-
you want it coming.
But then what about my point? Is that part of that or do we amend that?
No, like, he's got that direction, you know that.
Well, we
That's
really
good.
That's already,
Okay.
that's already.
Okay, as long as we're all on the same page.
Okay, give me a motion.
Bridget, we had a workshop and we went over that in great detail, which. Okay, I move that the Village of Tiki Island table the approval of ordinance changes in the February 2024 agenda, item number 7C, until discussion of other alternatives related to swimming pools and LP gas containers. Or review, whatever.
Okay, we have a motion by Alan Scott. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Hunter Niblett. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
So can I say something?
In the end, you can.
At the end of the citizen's comment?
Yes, please.
I abstained.
So we're not making any amendments.
I abstained from the vote.
Okay.
Can I,
So we have four,
well, or have we left that item in?
Partly because, and the reason is, I wanna read these, like, I would have liked to be able to read these ahead of time, I think both of these are a great idea. I just wanna go make sure I understand everything that's in there, especially when it comes to location of tanks. I think the swimming pool is great, I'm shocked we don't have one.
We didn't take any action, we just
Yeah,
deferred.
we didn't agree to do anything except
we're just,
table this.
we're just deferring it right now.
Okay, so specifically, who's being tasked with going and actually compiling all this, disseminating it to everybody, and then we're ready to vote on this in March?
We'll bring,
I don't want to delay, you know, people bringing, the more we delay on some of these things, the harder it is for people to know exactly what they have to do to move business forward.
okay, I'll work on it with Alan if Alan wants to work on it, and we'll work together on it to get it done. But we've already had a motion, we've already passed it, and one abstained. So,
The swimming pool is it's pretty
it's,
straightforward.
both of them are pretty cut and dry. You're going by the International Building Code, and you're going by the state of Texas, with just a few changes, that's it. Like permits and stuff like that, so
I
we've
do
already,
think we should be enforcing the barriers on the pools now.
okay.
I can make that happen.
That will just be an order that we'll give to him. So that's a different subject. Okay, so we,
When y'all bring it back, I have a question. Can you, when you bring back the recommendation for either or, can you let us know what's different than how we practice it today or we've been practicing? I'd like to know the differences
okay.
once we adopt it, so we know what's gonna change. And
Yeah.
he'll know what's gonna change, and any builders that come to the island or other trades would know what's gonna change. That
And
would be helpful.
I'd like to also add, I'm thinking this is gonna be pretty substantial. We need to see this before Thursday, before the meeting. We need more time to.
Well,
look.
you'll have to, this is not gonna happen in a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to go
Before we
on to the
leave-
next one. We've all had this in discussion
I have
on it.
a question before we leave seven, what were we on, I don't even know.
C.
7C. This is just a general question, I have a question about why is it that LPG tanks and swimming pools are so desirable to have in front of the building? How were they selected as the two things to add to the above ground improvements or whatever? I mean, there's all kinds of things out there.
Well,
I don't think that's correct.
that's something for another night. That's homeowners, that's homeowners, that's homeowners. Okay, let's go to the next one. We've already done C, we tabled it.
So
Alden and I are gonna work on it.
just real quickly, so
We've already tabled.
so no changes.
Nothing yet.
Nothing
Why
yet.
is the ordinance review committee not gonna work on that?
Okay.
I go,
You can work on it with us too. But they were asking for people to help do it, so we'll get with the committee and everything like that and get with it. Yeah, the ordinance committee is gonna be in on it. Okay, let's go to, D, discuss and take possible action to approve Apollo Environmental Change Order Number 11, crediting the original bid amount by $415,695 for quantities of work performed where lower, work performed that were lower than they were originally bid. Okay, motion to discuss? Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna make a comment that, this puts, it's actually good news, bad news. I mean, we approved a couple of pretty big change orders with Apollo, but the good news is, this is a net, 200, their overall contract went up 200,000 and about $200,500. So, although we approved a couple of pretty big change orders, it worked out since they didn't dredge as much as they thought they were going to. So, anyway, net, we ended up about 200,000 over their original contract.
Okay. So, can I get a motion to approve the change order number 11, crediting the original contract?
To approve.
Okay,
Second.
motion approved, second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. E, discuss and take possible action to approve Apollo Pay App number 15 for the final payment in the amount of $493,352.88. Is there a motion to discuss on this?
Motion to discuss.
Okay, go ahead.
Is there any more explanation on what's in the agenda on this one?
That was just, we're just bringing to you what was,
That's just the final
it's
payment.
just the final pay app, we just brought it to the
We're
council.
happy with their work at this point?
We've been through Atkins Engineering, and they wrote the acceptance for it in the engineering company.
Okay.
So
Anything?
what, in the construction world, at the end of the contract, you normally write a deductive change order or a positive change order, but hopefully deductive, and then you close everything out by a final payment. And it's all in a spreadsheet, and Brandy and I both run that spreadsheet.
Motion to approve.
First motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. F, discuss and take possible action to approve Shirley and Sons change order number 1 for $175,000 for extended breakwater panels, broken pilings, and hardware and proper signage. Let's get a motion to discuss that one,
Motion to discuss.
okay? Alan, you want to just go about it? So what, we could do this. So what happened is, the plan showed two different, they bid it as one. And Atkins and Shirley and Sons got together, and they need to extend the panels because they're 4 foot off the water, and they're supposed to be 1 foot off the water. But per one detail, it shows that everything was supposed to be built at 5 foot and put in. They built it at 5 foot and put it in. Now, when we go back to look at the depth between, and you're supposed to have a minimum of 1 foot from the bottom of the dirt to the bottom of the panel, we're having 3 foot, 4 foot, 2 foot, 1 foot, and then it gets back to where it needs to be. So for them to extend the panels, which comes all the way down the main channel this way, and then turns and goes back towards the trailer park over there, Atkins has worked out a deal with them for $175,000 to extend the breakwater panels and the broken piles, and use the proper hardware and get the signs that are supposed to be properly installed.
And the source of the confusion, as I understand it, was that because of the water depth, right? And they were running a whaler at an even line based on a depth that started here and the water was 2 feet deep, and you got here at 6 feet deep, and then all of a sudden your whaler is not a foot from the mud line. That basically is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
My comment would be that I put in my notes, it is a good compromise between Tiki, Atkins, and Shirley and Sons, because Tiki didn't really have anything in it other than we were the one paying the bill, but between Atkins and Shirley and Sons, there's some shared responsibility there. The engineers didn't draw the drawings exactly clear, and then they said this contractor should have asked more questions. So at the end of the day, it was a compromise. And then I think Atkins came up with a cost estimate of over like $208,000, I think it was. They did kind of a blind estimate of what they thought it would cost, and Shirley came back to $175,000. I think honestly, he just wants to get it done and get out of here. And so anyway, that's where we came up. We've been talking about this since November, it seems like.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. G, consider and take action to approve the 2024 election services contract with Galveston County. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. H, discuss and take possible action on request for variance to place covered parking patio and in-ground 500-gallon propane tank in the 20-foot build line. Okay, I need a motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
All right. Y'all have the drawings that they're here. Ted's here to represent himself. And y'all have the drawings on.
We've got a new option.
Yeah, and this is a new one, not the one that's in the
Right.
program, right? There's a new
You
one.
have option 2 and option 1. Option 2, the other one, is still, look at them and then y'all can tell the difference of the options.
It seems similar to what we looked at last week on catamaran, I believe.
The call.
Last month.
Yeah, catamaran. Where we approved the in-ground propane tanks. I don't have a problem with that, but we just denied last month a piling in front of the build line. So I don't know how we could do anything different.
Not, that's what we did. For the Caldwells, the issue is that their entire structure went in front of the build line. So it was both the foundation, it wasn't just the piling. And then they came back and said that they thought that their drawing might be wrong, but at the time
Right.
they turned it in,
Right.
everything was in front, 2.5 feet in front of the build line. The wall, the concrete pad, all of that was. So we said it's an enclosed structure that would extend beyond the build line. On 3 sides, it was enclosed. That was the issue. You know, we had said if it was just a post, but the actual foundation piece of that was behind it, the walls were behind the build line, but the column was there, and the eaves hung over, that we would have allowed. We told them that. We did tell them we would allow that. They were gonna look to move.
I didn't say that I would allow that.
They were gonna look to try to move that column back 20 feet as well if they could.
Right.
But we said eaves of a house could overhang, and so the post was gonna be, we told them that would probably be okay, or they might not have to come back to us.
And that's what
I'm
happened.
sure that's what we said.
By the way.
Well,
And they moved it all back, didn't they?
Well, they moved the post behind the.
yeah, it was just a post.
It was a post.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember.
the overhang still
Yeah,
allowed.
you might be confusing 2 different ones. but
No, I'm not, because if you look at the
He
drawing.
just said it's a post.
From the Caldwells, if you looked at the drawing they submitted, and even in our minutes, it says, as submitted, it was denied, because the drawing that was in the pack had that entire, structure patio over the build line 2.5 feet. So, I swear to God, and that's actually in our meeting notice, because it says,
But
as
there
submitted, it
was
was
one
denied.
that was just a post that was over the line though. Was that somebody else?
Oh, ignore my watch.
Well, that particular thing, it has a small overhang. I mean, I think it has like a 1-foot overhang.
Yeah, it was only like a foot or so over.
Well,
Overhang.
they were gonna move the
Move
post
the
back,
post.
but there was still gonna be the typical eave, didn't it?
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
was
the
okay.
eve was okay, that wasn't really an
But
issue. was it?
originally, we denied it because it wasn't just a post, it was the whole thing, was 2.5 feet over.
Mm-hmm.
So they scaled it, we asked them if they could scale it back, then they wouldn't need to come to us at all. Which I think is what they ended up
But I
doing.
think part of that conversation, Patty, was I think they said, we've already thought about a change. It would just be the post, and we said, no, the post can't be there either. And they changed.
Yeah, I don't remember us having that discussion
Does
about
that
those.
sound familiar?
That's the way I remember it.
That's not what my notes say.
Well, this is your
Doesn't
project right
matter,
now.
so.
So this new drawing, it still says a post for roof support.
Because there's a roof that goes over the house, yes.
Well, so that means there's something above there. It shows a red line going back and over. That's not there right now, right?
That's not there right now, so basically this is a garage door, and this is a garage door right here. That post is gonna hold a gable roof that comes out from the second tower and go down both sides.
So you are gonna build like a
So no,
carport,
Yeah,
like a full-fledged, but it's gonna have louvered walls.
it depends on what you guys say. I mean, if it can't have louvered walls, if it's just a patio cover, right? If it's a patio cover, then supposedly that's supposed to be legal.
Or I
open
don't
porches,
yeah.
open porches.
Well, and I don't think the walls, or
The walls.
a wall's a wall, whether it's a louvered wall or a solid wall,
Right.
that's between you and your insurance company.
Right.
So all of
What you put there.
this, so the way.
Well, it was all, I'm planning on doing louvered walls, but if I could build the entire structure and not have walls, then that's the way I'm gonna do it, so.
So the original, the one that's originally in the pack, instead of this line, you guys have it, right? This basically goes all the way out. So this essentially ends up being a garage with garage doors, louvered walls, attached to the house with an entrance for the doorway.
Attached to the house.
Right? This option puts all of the garage behind the build line. But then what they're doing, there's a deck over the top of all of this. And it's a covered deck that comes out, right, it's the extension of the roof of the house that comes out. And so what they want to do is be able to actually have a post here that allows that roof to come all the way out. This is the only part that's deck, right?
Right.
Here. And this is just open space. There's a garage door here, there's a garage door here.
Right.
Patty, we can't really see what you're.
Oh, sorry, this is sensitive.
Yeah.
Let me do this again.
You're just showing what's in the picture, right?
Yeah, so there's, basically, this is an attached garage, for want of a better word, right? Louvered walls. This would be a garage door here, there'd be a garage door right here. What you're looking at, because this is plan view, what you're looking at on top, this will be a wraparound deck. They already basically have a staircase here, and their deck in, their little porch ends here. That would extend around, and all of this is deck. okay? Below it is essentially a garage. Louvered walls, garage door, louvered wall. But what they're wanting to do is actually be able to extend from the roof line out, all of this part, right?
Right, right.
A covering, so the roof would extend, it would
Right.
cover this upper deck here. But it needs this post for support if it's gonna go all the way out to here. So this would be, basically have a cover, the roof extending out over it, but there'd be nothing above it all the way up. So you'd like to pull a golf cart or whatever up underneath it. You know, the other, if we don't approve the post, then basically the roof has to kind of do that. The covered roof would have to, one design was all of this was out here, all this came out. And so you basically had that amount of garage right beyond the build line. And I think that's a problem, so.
Yeah.
This roof plan is
Does that
not
help?
changed though, right?
Well,
Even though you cut the bottom section out, but this roof plan was not changed. It's still got rafters coming over to this post, which is the one that's in front of
yeah,
it.
but
That's
it's
correct.
back to here though, so this part here.
Well,
this
you've
left-
taken one of the
That's
garages
right.
off, but then this other one, you're saying you've drawn a line over there showing, so this is gone, this is your new line.
That's right.
It's gone. But now you're showing a line going here.
That's right. And so
But
there's a door
but
there.
these rafters are still gonna be there. There's gonna be a roof and rafters over that post.
That's
it.
correct,
Yeah,
yes.
that's what I just said.
That's a lot different than just having a post supporting
Right.
something. I mean, you have an actual gabled roof or whatever it is, hip or gable roof,
Right.
coming out both sides all the way out
Right.
into the, but I'm doing that.
Yeah, and that's what that post is.
So what does that mean to you, Alan?
Well, it's, when you look at it, it's still gonna be a full-length roof with the rafters coming out. I'm assuming it's a gable in the front or something, so the gable's gonna come all the way out even, and then this little corner over here is gonna be the one. In other words, there's a roof over this that you see.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a roof
Yeah.
over the
There's
post.
a roof over
There's
it.
a roof over all of it.
Yeah.
So
Roof's not the issue, right?
because
it's the
the
post.
the roof is over the open
Well, you-
deck,
yeah, you
so
can't
that's the
have
open
the-
porch. It's,
Yeah, you
it's-
can't
it
have the
would be-
roof without a post.
Yeah.
And we should say, you know, I think our goal should be to try to approve these if we can and still be consistent. Consistency's our challenge,
Yeah.
I think, and how
Yeah.
we apply this.
Yeah, this is inconsistent with anything we would ever approve.
Bill, can I say something? Let's chime in on this.
Just for a minute.
So, the way the ordinance is written now, what he's proposing tonight is legal with the way that's in our ordinances now. It's legal with the ordinance that was changed in September 23, and it's also legal in the ordinance we were trying to change tonight. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing that's considered a covered porch, and it's allowed by ordinance. I mean, it's in our ordinance, so I just want to explain it.
The covered
It don't
porch is
matter
in-
if that post is out there or not, or if it has a roof over it.
Well, the porch, the ordinances that you have in the porch right now are overhangs that you have off the porches and the eaves that you have off the porches.
Covered porches,
Covered porches.
that is considered
A
a
covered
porch.
porch.
Correct.
porch. There's a
And
difference
it's
between
allowed
porch
to
and
extend
build.
past the bill line.
That's
And the
right. But
ordinance
that's up to
says
y'all
on-
to decide. There's a
So-
difference.
But that is.
And what you're saying, though, is with this supported post, is he correct that this is all
It's
within
not
the current
living
code?
space.
It's not living space. It's-
Well, I get that, but
I think the intent was, all of our houses in this, most of the houses here are elevated, right? So the intent, I think, of the ordinance was a porch, an overhanger porch up at this level, not down here.
So so part of this revision in the drawing, because the way I interpret this is, the open porch should be, and I'd like it to say, first living level open porch. That way it's not a ground level enclosed space. In our current regulations, he could have this open porch with that post out there. To basically do the ground level enclosed way beyond the build line, that's where we all got woozy with the Caldwells and all of that as well. You basically have a ground level space that's extending out beyond the 20-foot build line. In the original design that was in our pack, that's what that was doing, that whole, just draw your straight lines over, all of that which would have been, which basically looks like an extension of the house, would be on the build line. The way he's kind of cookie cuttered this back, all of the garage, ground level garage space is behind the build line, but the elevated open porch, the post support for that is within our current regulations.
So are we talking about
Other
it?
hated.
Are we talking about it because of that one piling is outside the build line? That's the only reason?
Yes.
Even though you said it's all okay by all three ordinances?
Yes, that's why we're talking about
We're
it.
only talking about it because that one piling's outside of the build line. Otherwise, okay, so
Correct.
it doesn't comply if it comes to us because would that be considered, or is it a variance now? I just want to make sure I'm clear on
If it,
why
if it
we're-
complies, why are we talking?
That's my question. I may have not said that well, but that's my question.
Y'all wanted to look at anything?
No, we
No,
did
we did
not.
not.
No, sir, we did not.
I did not,
We wanted to look at anything that didn't comply.
so I'm confused as to
Does it
why.
comply or does it not? You're the building inspector.
No, I'd say it complies, but I didn't want to let this thing go and have you go look at it and say, why do we allow that?
So if you, 6-1, I'm just Alan, clarify, above ground improvement is what this is. Front of the build line,
Yeah.
whatever. Is defined as walkways, steps, open porches, and extension of the eaves of a roof.
So open porch versus closed porch.
Open porch.
If this is an open
So
porch,
this part,
Got a roof over it.
this part.
that's still open, you have no walls.
Open on the side.
No walls.
I think that's right.
So this is why this revision is in here, because this part down here is at ground level, and we'll have garage door, wall, garage door, wall, louvered or not.
You know what I mean?
That is all behind the build line.
They,
Elevated open porch has a post that's out
the
beyond the build
extension of the
line,
roof.
but it's allowed in our current regulations.
Well, I hate that because extension of the, not, you said roof, but it's actually eaves. Extension of the eaves of a roof. I would say that would be, as long as you can extend them without a post.
I would agree with
Without a
that.
post.
I would
You
agree
have
with
to put a
that.
That is
post,
not
it's no
our
longer
choice.
the eave of the roof.
It's an open porch now,
It's an
it's not
open
the
porch.
eaves, it's an open porch. An open
Well,
porch is defined with the roof.
I guess you can make a case for that. Like I said, I think the intent, and I don't know about the attorney, how, what intent means, but the deal is that I don't think it was ever intended to be used like this, but if the words say that, I don't consider that an open porch. To me, houses here have the first living level are at 17, 16 feet, whatever. And so when you have porches, walks, decks, all that stuff, you know, the ordinance for the deck over a boathouse says 16 feet or the first living level, equal to the first living level, so.
We don't define a porch anywhere, because I've always thought the porch is the ground level, that's my porch, and this is my deck. So that's just me talking. So do we have a porch defined anywhere? I'm just
And that
curious.
is an issue, because I've gone through, in there it just says open porch. We do not define it as, what does that mean? But, because that's why I like the
Open
first
porch to me would have a
elevated
roof
one.
on it and no walls.
Right,
I would too, so that's why.
which is what his upper part
Yes,
is.
and that's why I brought this here, because
Did you didn't like this?
But
I don't
again,
know.
on the record, you're saying you think this complies.
yes. Typically, I would have gave this permit. I told him no on his first two drawings. The first one, he was in the easement, so no, that's a no. I'm just letting you know, I mean, and he spent money on drawings and stuff for it, and I said, we need to approve this before you can draw it, you know.
Is option
Keep
two
drawing
officially
this
part of our
thing.
package now?
Option 2 is, yes.
It is officially part of our package.
He bagged it.
He bagged the other one.
Alan, you're the one that studies this code pretty closely. Do you think this is okay? Do you agree with Darrell?
No. I don't consider it to be an open porch. It is a
why don't you look
carport.
up the definition of an open porch?
Well, I don't, I will, but,
Well, I'm just saying, it's, it has no walls.
well, no, you know.
That's open.
So you're telling me you're gonna build with no walls? No walls?
There's no walls.
But- but
sitting
the
out there.
upper
No.
deck's not.
On
That's
level
the
2,
point.
there's no walls.
No.
It's wide open.
This is gonna go.
So you can
this
see
is
all,
on the-
on
wait,
three
wait.
sides, you can see the earth, okay?
When you're
I think it
inside
needs
the
to come more.
porch.
Okay, we,
Wait,
The
hang
porch
on.
is level
The
with
porch is at the second level.
That's right.
The open porch part is at the second living level. This piece down here is a garage. And it has louvered walls, garage door, louvered wall, garage door, louvered wall, louvered wall, and there's an entrance to the house, is this correct?
That's correct.
Through this door to get into the pre-existing doors. This, so that's ground level. Go up, this is all deck. This
Porch
is all
level.
deck. It's at the first living level. This is all open, like any deck we all have. There's a post out here, and they're basically covering this deck, but they need that support out there for the deck to go out, and then this will just be open air space, like a portico shade, that you would drive under to get into the garage door.
okay, we
All right,
hit that one several
is
times.
the,
Is that clear?
is the propane tank included with this?
It's just drawn on there,
Yeah,
but there's dimensions that have to be.
He's asking to put it in the,
Is it on the agenda?
yes, it's
It
in,
is on
included
the-
on his.
Is it a separate item or is it this item? Okay, I have a question about the propane tank, which I guess is on this item.
It's on this item.
Same question I always ask, there's no other place you can put that tank that's not out in front of your house?
No, there's not, that's it. So, it's gonna be there someplace,
It's
more
gonna
than 10 feet from the house.
Right.
So.
Well,
10
wait a
feet
minute,
is the
it's drawn to
dimension.
be like right by.
Yeah, that's,
Well, no, that's where it's drawn, it's gonna be further to the north.
but he's asking to
So-
put it in the building.
Yeah, in the build line, so.
And I know it didn't get drawn on there properly.
And so, I guess maybe, I don't know, you might rotate it 90 degrees, I don't know.
Probably whatever we have to do to stay 10 feet
It's
from
an
the
underground
structure.
tank with cathodic protection.
That's right. Whatever the code says we have to have, so. I mean, the
So-
bay gas requires all that stuff.
They do.
We don't get a say in it. No one
Yeah, the
does.
new tanks they're putting in now don't even have a pedestal above it, it's just a manhole cover you lift, it's totally flat.
Okay, so the tank's gonna be, I don't see why so it has to be 10 feet from the porch?
No,
Yes.
from, not, it has to be 10 feet from that.
The
Well, right now,
structure.
it's like 1 foot.
From
Yeah,
the
he's gonna
structure?
move it.
10
He's
feet
gonna
from
move
the
it.
structure.
But if you do the math, I mean, well, I guess so it's gonna be somewhere way over here. It has to
Yeah,
be-
he'll have to push it further to the,
to get it 10 feet away from the house.
Yes.
It's technically gonna look like it's on the side of the road, but that's okay, that's a
It's
whole
buried.
separate issue. And I'll tell you something about the Texas Railroad Commission, if you're 10 feet from a parking lot or a roadway, you have to have bollards. And the bollards have to be 3 feet in front of the tank. So you have to
Wow.
allow the tank plus 3 feet. Now, the interesting thing is, they don't specifically say underground, but I think their intent is underground or surface mount, or surface tanks.
well, there again, like I said, if we let them be responsible for their regs, I would be happy.
So you'd like to see what definition of open porches are, they have pictures of it, elevated decks.
Well, see, I was confused all along because I thought you had a roof. I kept saying you have a roof, gable roof, but you don't. You have floor joist with a handrail around it, is that right?
No, I have
And a roof
coming
over
out
that.
over this deck.
Oh,
That's what an open porch is. We don't get to decide the definition, so.
okay. Well, Patty, make a motion to approve it then.
I make a motion to approve.
Can I clarify something on your motion?
Sure.
It says variance, is it not a variance? Because if it's not a variance, we shouldn't approve it, we should approve it differently and not call it a variance if it's not a variance.
I would split it up, so if I'm hearing it correctly,
Okay.
then, well, we'll hear. But if it's covered patio park or parking is one, and I don't think we decided that needs a variance. So I would just direct him to approve that. And then the second part, does he need a variance for the propane tank? Then approve a variance for that. So
Well-
just direct regarding the parking.
Why would, you're saying we don't have to take any action, but he's not allowed to approve anything in front of the building line? Anything?
No, I'm saying you grant the variance as to the propane tank.
Right.
Does that make sense?
He's talking about the porch
You
now.
said skip the
But that-
porch, but it also is in front of the building line, so Darrell doesn't have the right to approve that.
I was saying direct him to approve it, but it's not a variance, right?
That was my question, and I was told it's not a variance, it would be covered under
It's
any
in the
ordinances, and he would
ordinance. It doesn't
normally
need a
approve it.
variance. It's in the ordinance, it doesn't need a variance.
So I'm happy to support or help your motion, I just think if it's not a variance, we shouldn't call it that.
So I make a motion that we direct Darrell
Carol.
to approve what is already within our existing ordinances for the covered porch parking, at
As per-
122 Boulevard. As per
Option
option
two.
2 as it was submitted.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All against?
No.
And
Okay,
then-
we passed.
And then do you
Then
need
let's
a-
go to the underground, 500 underground tank. Now, you would need for that.
Hope so.
Let's get a motion for that then.
That's the second motion, right? Okay. And is that is a
That's a
variance?
variance.
Okay.
That is a variance.
I'll make that motion. I mean, as long as we're following the Railroad Commission code, I am making a motion to approve it being in the, or past the build line.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
Okay. We have 4 for and 1 against. Okay, motion passes on both. Thank you. All right. I discuss placement of public safety building elevator. Okay, let's get a motion to discuss that. And then
Motion to discuss.
Go ahead, Patty, it's yours.
So actually, it's Alan and I. So Alan had originally brought a proposal. We all know we need to replace the elevator in the public service building because it just doesn't work very well and it's very old and it's out of date. We had a couple of options we had looked at. One would be basically a total rebuild to go as ADA compliant as we could potentially get. Goldie and I walked through, we looked at that. I walked through with Alan as well. It's very, very expensive. We all knew that was going to happen. And I think there's just a lot of, the more I look at it, I don't think it's a good use of taxpayer money to try to put in a $300,000 elevator. So I went away from that. Got back with Alan with the estimate he had. I wanted to find a way that we could have an elevator that somebody that was in a wheelchair or a walker or on crutches could access this independently. And so the one that's in your, is it in the pack? Is that in the pack or you gave that?
Yeah.
That one right there, right. So essentially, these are modified off of what were external lifts that they use in natatoriums and gymnasiums and everything for people in wheelchairs. It does pretty much what we would want. So there would be a button actually over where the elevator is now that would be at the appropriate level that somebody could push. It would have an automatic opening door, so you don't have to physically open the door yourself. You'd be able to wheel yourself in this way or turn around that way, or somebody could take you in, or if you were on crutches, and you would get in, and you would then be able to close the door once you were in, because the door closes by itself, which is good. The only piece we don't love, but there's not a way around it, is the continuous operation button. So you do have to hold the button to basically go up to the second floor. Or somebody on the second floor, I assume, could push the button. So the way these were done, and the one that's in there, which is one we got the estimate on, that is the only option. The other option is you upgrade to basically what's a commercial elevator, like you would see in Pick Your Building, that you could go in and just press the button and go up. But we're probably going back up into the $200,000 range.
What's the cost for this one?
This would be, we think, within probably 50 to 60K,
Okay.
Using the existing shaft.
using the existing shaft. Now, as always, when they get in there, it's possible they might have to make some modifications. You would be able to use this as a lift. You know, you could basically put something in, go up to the second floor, push the button and have it come up. And then same, put something on the second floor, come down, push the button and have it come down. But when you are physically in the elevator, you will have to push the button. So we'll need signage that says, push the button the whole time. And a sign that says elevator, you know, in the front. But in my mind, it got 90% of the way of where I wanted to be. It's big enough for a wheelchair and a couple of people. You know, it'll have nice lighting. The self-opening door is what's awesome, because then you can indicate. So I think it gets what we wanted for a pretty reasonable price. So, Alan?
Is it in the budget?
Yes, so we have 100, so last year we approved 120K
Okay.
to replace the elevator. And then first we were gonna repair it, which to me that was a waste of money. And so we budgeted 120K to basically replace it.
Okay.
And then we've looked at multiple options of how to do that, all the way from new build, total, you know, you could do a 360 in a wheelchair, ADA compliant, to where do we get to what serves our current and future residents, gets us 90% of the way there, and is cost effective.
And keeps us in ADA compliance
Yep.
for the age of the building.
It
Yeah,
does.
that's great, thank you for your research.
Well.
Isn't there two different, you can't turn a wheelchair around in there?
You
can
cannot turn a
So
wheelchair
it's
around.
not ADA compliant, but it's ADA something, it's a different term, isn't it?
Accessible.
It's ADA accessible.
Accessible
And
for
it
the
meets
building that we had when it was built at the
Right.
time.
Yeah, the age of the building, which is the governing.
It meets the standards for our public safety building. So,
Okay. All right, so
Alan, do you want to add anything?
No. Do you want the weight limit is on it?
1,000 pounds, 1,000? I think it's 1,000 pounds is the one that we were looking at,
Okay.
which is pretty good. So if you guys
make
are
a motion.
good with that, I make a motion that we go with the elevator plan that we talked about. We'll get an updated bid. We do not have, we need to get a specific current bid. But with the last one was 45, we're expecting it's gonna go up. There's probably a few more things because we wanna add that self-opening door. So we'll probably be in the 50 to 60K, but if you guys are good with that plan, it's already in
This
the
is
budget.
discussed only,
Okay,
but we're good with it. But we're good with it, so.
Thank you.
you're good with that plan?
Thank you.
We'll be back with a budget and an action in March,
Okay, thank you.
okay?
All right, Jay, discuss possible installation of water fountains at Reserve A and B.
Okay, that's me again.
That's you.
So what I would propose we do, I would like to see us use the reserves actually more for the benefit of citizens. And we have a water fountain right now at the pavilion. There is no water fountain at either of the reserves. So when people are out walking their dogs or screaming along on their bike, like I do, there's really no place to get water at either of those reserves. Water fountains like the one we had, and a lot of people are out walking their dogs. So this would be an amenity for basically just our citizens. Brandy went and looked at the types like we have here at the pavilion. This one has the doggy bowl, and then it has the one not refrigerated. I don't think it's worth the money for that. It just needs to be wet, that you can fill up your bottle. We have water at Reserve A, I believe, but we would need to put water in at Reserve B, so there'll be some additional costs. So these are about $3,400 a piece, and then we would basically get estimates on the plumbing and all that.
When we put the one in at the pavilion, you had to do an ADA compliant one, which was 2 levels. This one's not.
It is
Do you
not.
have to do that?
I don't believe we have to do that.
Why'd we have to do it over here then?
Because this was a public park for,
That's not a park
Well,
back
it's
at the
public.
That's
reserve.
a reserve.
Those are reserves.
Okay.
We need to quit calling it a park.
Okay.
Reserve A and Reserve B.
Okay.
They're reserves. So what I would propose is that we allocate some of the budget that we had for the elevator that we won't use to basically put the water, to order the water fountains and put the water fountains in, at both of the reserves.
Why wouldn't this be a Tika
That was
project?
gonna be my question,
It could be.
because
All right,
Tika
you bring your
pays,
checkbook?
Lock the door.
Tika maintains that area. They mow the grass, take care of the beds, that's an area they maintain. So why would this not be a
Yeah, I
Tika
think it's
expense?
community amenities.
I like the idea.
Yeah, I like the idea,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
but I think it's a Tika thing.
It could very well be a Tika
Well, why
thing.
didn't the city put in the benches?
Probably should have been.
We're gonna send you a bill for that hour. On second
I
thought.
Let's stick
was
on-
wondering if that was gonna
Let's-
happen.
Let's stick
That's
on
not
the
on the
agenda.
agenda.
But okay.
So I do agree. I think there are many things like this that Tika
Yeah.
could use their money for. That's what our community association dues are for, or
Yeah.
fees are for, is for community amenities. We have 2 reserves that we have the ability, once we find out, we're right now in the process of checking to see how much of that is protected wetland. Because since it's connected to the bay, usually all the way up to the water line is Texas General Land Office land.
Okay, so
What we have common usage for. So we can basically not take any action on this, and then in March, I can go to Tika and request funds for this, if that's the route you prefer to go. I wanted to bring it up to see if we want to just go ahead and do it ourselves, or do we want to take it to the community association? Or do you want me to take it to the community association?
it's just a discussion only, so give her
I'd like to
direction.
Yeah.
talk to Tika.
Okay,
Okay,
are you guys all aligned with that? So- Okay, I will take that on.
okay, thank you. All right, I'm pulling items K, L, and M. we're going to citizen comments.
Yeah, so on this item C, I've spent a lot of time on this, a lot of time. I've involved Freddie, I've involved Daryl, I've involved Ray. It's a little bit ridiculous that we have to sit here and deal with it. I mean, this has been going on since September of 2023. We spent an hour and a half tonight on propane tanks and swimming pools. I mean, we have to do better than this, Goldie. This is ridiculous. I mean, this, how simple can this ordinance be? We've been all these years with no problems until we changed it last year. So that's all I got to say on that, but I mean, I don't know what else to do with it. I'm frankly getting tired of messing with it.
Thank you for your comments.
The other thing I have to say is, I went to Tika's board meeting last Thursday, and the House, or Texas legislature passed the House Bill 164 last year, and it went into effect in January. And Ira, you can chime in too if you want on this, but basically what that was geared around is HOAs and how they assess fines and that sort of thing, penalties and stuff for illegal stuff going on, you know, under the deed restrictions. And at the meeting, which I think they approved, is in which Steve Hoffman told me, basically, he might warn people at Tiki that in the next couple of months, they're going to send out, they identified over 200 to 300 violations. I believe most of them are trailer parking.
Yeah.
Is that correct? That's going to go out to the residents. You're going to get a warning. You're going to, next month, you're going to get a second warning. You're going to get a third warning, and then they're going to leave your house. If I understand that right, is that correct? Or
Two warnings and then a fine, possibly 2 fines and then.
So we have to find, that's a deed restriction. We have ordinances that mirror the deed restrictions. We have to find, we're gonna have some irate people out here. I'm gonna tell you right now, you can blow Facebook up. I mean, it's coming. If they follow through with that, you know, I know Alan and I and Chad Prince, we worked on that parking ordinance. There's some language in there that I have a way, I think, around to fix it, but I mean, it's gonna involve Brittany, it's gonna involve Tika's attorney to discuss it and get on the same page and see if we could do something with that, because that's something we don't wanna mess with there, so.
Are you saying that
This
they?
is comments. Yeah, not discussion, it's
I'll
comments.
talk to you later.
Yeah, I don't know why you listen to comments. It was a good
Okay, well,
question.
it's
Don't
comments.
ask questions for clarification.
Okay, thank you for
Anyway,
your comments.
one more thing.
That's the same question.
So-
I can feel it.
One more thing, so 3 or 4 months ago, we hired an assistant city secretary. And we allocated $20,000 to pay this woman that was earmarked for Daryl. But we couldn't find an assistant bill inspector for him. So I've been up to City Hall multiple times. I've gone to Brandy's office. This woman sits at a desk next to Brandy without a piece of paper, a stapler, pencil, nothing on it when Brandy's there. The last 3 trips I've been up there, the last 3 Fridays I've been up there, when she is off, this woman is sitting there on her cell phone with nothing on her desk. Brandy's not even there. Brandy don't work Fridays. So why are we paying this woman to sit up there on her cell phone all day Friday? I mean, at least, give her a computer or a keyboard. Hell, you ain't gotta plug it in. Just make it look like she's doing something.
Can I raise a point of order?
Go ahead, one time.
We're not allowed to ask questions, so if we're not gonna do that, can we enforce the 2-minute limit? Nothing
That's
against you,
correct.
Steve. It's
We
just,
are
if
gonna
we're gonna enforce one thing, let's enforce everything.
We're gonna enforce everything.
Okay,
That's
thank
fine. All right, thank you for your comment.
All right, that's it. I'm done.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.